Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
You guys are more than welcome in the back to scoot closer if you'd like. I don't bite. I really don't. Not when I'm not grumpy.
Yeah, you can move your chairs.
Please do. I'm friendly, I promise. Good morning, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have within reason. Go ahead.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first off, I'm a voiceover actress for animation and video games. Some titles that come to mind would be Dead or Alive 5, Soul Calibur 5, the Blaze Blue franchise. I apologize, my voice is a little shot right now. I was just at Anime Expo last weekend where I had to do the same thing, so it's a little shot. Apart from that, let's see, Tales of Graces, and when it comes to anime, Madoka Magica, which is a very well-known anime within Japan and now in the United States. Magical Girl Lyrical Nanoha, Familiar of Zero, an anime film called Redline, which was one of my favorite projects that I've ever worked on, and several more projects that I would totally forget to mention, but most recently, I recorded the the newest addition to the Skullgirls game, my newest character, Squiggly. And I have many more projects coming up, but I unfortunately cannot talk about them. So, I know, darn. NDAs, what are you gonna do? So that's me. Who are you? Yes.
I have a quick question for you, GameAccess.net. You mentioned that you did Dead or Alive and fighting games and things like that. Is it a different experience to be voiceovering a fighting game where you have to do huhs and ha's and everything else? Like, how do you prepare yourself for that kind of work as opposed to something else, like animation or something along those lines?
Well, the recording process between anime shows and video games is actually different in some ways, but also similar to the fact of very basic, you are recording something. But when recording video games, most of the time the script is sort of out of context. You're reading just line after line after line after line, whereas for anime shows, you are watching the scene as you are recording it. And you have to watch it because you have to match the lip flaps. That's really the main difference, but as you said, in video games you also have to do attacks and you have to do efforts, which can be very grueling on your voice. So unfortunately, there's no way to really prepare for it, except to simply make sure that you don't overuse your voice when you know you have a session, because most of the time video game sessions are about 4 hours long, sometimes longer, sometimes 2 hours. Yeah. And sometimes, as I said, they can be even longer depending on the person's schedule. I know there have been circumstances where actors will have a filming schedule, for example, so when they record video games they will have to have an even longer session just to blow it out and get it over with. But apart from that, in anime you also have to do those kind of reactions and efforts, certainly not as much as fighting games, because obviously you're not fighting as much in anime, but you know, you would have to ask the Dragon Ball Z actors that. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Brett Simon, morepower.com. My question is, what character was your favorite to record? And I guess, close to that, what experience was your most rewarding?
Well, first off, my experience that was most rewarding, I have so many of those, but one of them is actually going to be, I believe, tomorrow night, because I will be crashing and I will be intruding horribly, as I put it, on Jim Cummings' panel. We're going to be reading a script together, which, as most of you know, I'm sure we all grew up with Jim Cummings on our television sets, so that's pretty special for me. And Jim is an incredibly nice person who is a sweetheart, and apparently we were flying on the same flight all day yesterday and I had no idea. So, but one of my favorite characters to record was, let's see, It's a toss-up because each character that I play, I tend to bond with, I tend to get used to, and finally when you wrap on a project, it's like you're saying goodbye to that character, so it's always tough. But Kyoko Sakura from Madoka Magica, she was definitely a favorite because she's usually not the type of character that I play. Most of the characters that I play are either very on the sultry, very sensual side, or they are the teenage girl side, whereas Kyoko was about, I think, 13 years old, and she had a very, very high-pitched voice, which is usually not what I play. So it was outside of my comfort zone, so to speak. So she was a lot of fun. But as I said before, one of my favorite projects that I've ever worked on in Madoka was one of them. One of my favorite projects was the anime film Redline. And if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely an amazing film. It took 7 years to make due to the fact that it's 100% hand-drawn, and the amount of effort put into this film was absolutely fantastic. And I was lucky enough to see it on the big screen because they were screening it in downtown Los Angeles. And my dear friend Patrick Seitz was the lead in it, which I thought was fantastic, and he was fantastic. The whole cast was just great, and if you were an anime fan like myself way back in the day, you would recognize several voices that I loved when I would watch certain shows. So, and to me it was special being in the same anime film with them, who are now my friends, so that was very special for me. It was kind of like, to me, recording Redline was a huge reunion. So to me that was probably one of my most favorite experiences.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Don't be shy, I really don't bite. Yes, ma'am.
Rebecca Angel from Geek Mom.
Hello, Rebecca.
I was just wondering if there's a line that you would not cross with a character choosing. So as a parent and stuff, and a lot of young girls, you know, watching animes and playing video games and stuff, from that edge, like, are there characters that you would feel that, do you have children? I'm sorry.
I do not,
okay,
no.
So like,
but I understand.
Like, is that something that you would be like, I don't even want to be associated with that type of video game, or I don't want to be a character that would be so, I don't know, whatever. Do you have one, or do you feel that that's not where, like, that's not something that you worry about?
It's really not something I worry about, and there's a few reasons for that. One, this is all fiction. Everything, whether it's a video game, whether it's an anime, it's all fiction. That doesn't necessarily reflect on my life. It doesn't reflect on who I am. So no, I really don't worry about it. And the realistic answer to that is, in LA, you never turn down work.
Yeah, no, that was my thing. I didn't know if it's just like it's work, and work is different.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. No, I mean it's both, because I love what I do. I love what I do, and it's never. Of course, there are circumstances where you do turn down work. In fact, there was something that I did turn down. It was a very small project. It wasn't an anime. It was not a video game. It was how do I explain this? It was an advertisement for something that I did not agree. It's not necessarily something I didn't agree with, but it's something that I knew that I could not connect with. And I didn't audition for it. I was offered it, and I had to kind of say, I can't, you know, I kind of had to give a little white lie and say, I'm so sorry, I'm not able to do this. That's the only time I've ever turned something down, but really I love what I do, and regardless of how raunchy or inappropriate or you know, whatever the humor may be, I know it doesn't reflect me as a person or on my life, and as long as I love doing it, you know. I just recently recorded a show, which I unfortunately can't say which one. It was very much on the adult humor side, and I had a blast doing it, because most anime shows are on that borderline, as you said. There's a line, and sometimes it tends to cross that. And
I'm a fan.
so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's, honestly, I have a lot of fun doing it, because sometimes you don't get to cross that line. So when you do, it's kind of like you're being a rebel. So I love it, but as of yet, there have been no roles that I have felt uncomfortable with, and I think that says a lot about the actor as well. If you are uncomfortable with a role, that's entirely up to you to turn it down, but at the same time, I think that it shows dedication for somebody who doesn't, yeah, that's my opinion, of course, but it also matters for you to be comfortable with the role. Absolutely, it does. So, I hope that answers your question, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question.
One more question. Silence, yes.
Do you have a favorite personal story from an experience when you were recording or something along those lines? I always try to ask that question.
I know, and there's always so many. Let's see, the story that comes to mind is there was an anime that I recorded, I think about 2 years ago, called Monster. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. It was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and my character was a very small but vital role. She was the mother of 2 of the main characters, and there is a flashback where she is pregnant with them and she ends up going into labor.
Okay.
And so she has to give labor pains. Now, Rebecca, I'm sure you'll understand this. I've never been in labor, so I don't know what it's like, but I've seen movies. I've seen 9 months, I've seen the movie 9 months. It's a lot of breathing, hyperventilating, all that. So I pretty much just said, okay, well, I have to act like I'm having contractions and in pain. So it was probably about 10 seconds, I don't want to say 10 seconds, maybe about 10 seconds of me hyperventilating and me just, I would do it, but I would burst your eardrums, of me hyperventilating and just taking very short breaths and pained breaths. And 10 seconds doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're recording, 10 seconds can feel like 2 minutes. And at the end of that point, I started to see circles because I was hyperventilating so much. And we did 1 take, and then after that, Patrick Seitz, who again was the director of that, then says, "Good job. I think we got it. We don't want to kill you." So, and that was actually a lot of fun because again, that was another role that I loved playing because it was a very dramatic role, which again, I don't often get to play. And it was a very sad scenario. She basically gives birth to these children and she's separated from them due to the facility where she gave birth to them. So because of that, it was very sad and I had a lot of fun doing it, but that's kind of the only funny story that comes to mind. I always have a blast when I record, especially with people who are my dear friends who are directing me. There was another show that I just worked on, again, which I can't announce yet, but the director of that was the same director for Madoka, and I always have a blast with him, so it was always great. But recording is always fantastic when I get to see the people that I don't get to see very often, so that's always a treat for me. Is that all the time we have, Leanne? Oh no. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, everybody. If you have any other questions, please feel free to come up to me and ask me. I have, Jillian, what is the next thing I have today?
Opening ceremony.
So I have opening ceremonies and then I have a signing at 1:15. Okay, so 1:15 today. So please don't be shy. I promise I don't bite. Come up and ask any questions you'd like. So thank you so much for coming, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.